So Zach, thank you for joining us, and we have 10 minutes, so it's going to be rapid fire questions.
Fastest 10 minutes in sports. Thank you for having me.
Let's see what we can get through. So you've often described Monumental Sports as more than a firm, that it really is a civic platform. So share a little bit about your philosophy.
Well, I do think that sports enterprises as businesses operate differently and need to be thought of differently than any other company out there. I think our fans uniquely tie their identities to our team brands. And I just read something the other day. There was a big Cantor national poll that was trying to understand, the new habits of the American general public and whatnot. And people are getting married later in life, as we know. People are spending more time in isolation, frankly. They're single, they're working remotely. And people increasingly are looking more and more for shared experiences with other folks. And they're looking for unifying experiences. We live in a world that's so polarized, unfortunately. And so this survey came out and said, what are the most unifying experiences that people have these days? And of course, sports ranked number one, but surprisingly, sports outranked religion.
Unbelievable.
It outranked religion. Wow. On top of course, box office, entertainment, theater, things like that. Sports was number one. It blew me away. And so when you have an impact like that on a community, clearly your business needs to operate differently. So we have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders. We're a for-profit business. We want to build the world's most valuable regional sports entertainment company. But we also have a significant duty and responsibility to our local fans. We recognize that we hold a bit of our city's morale in our hands. We want to build sustainable winning teams like we have with the Capitals, like we strive to do with the Wizards, like we have with the Mystics previously. And we also want our fans to feel really good about the teams that they root for. I think to some of the work that we've done in our community in the last couple of years, we've donated up to $20 million as a family and as an organization to a variety of different nonprofits. We're very proud to host the DC CAP graduation ceremony every year in our building. We donated our building almost a year ago to the day. The airline disaster at DCA at Reagan National Airport, we created an event out of thin air around figure skating and donated $1 million to the victims' families that were lost in that terrible accident. We uniformed over 200,000 children across the DMV region last year in different sports apparel. This year, we're rolling out initiative District Kicks, where every single high school student will get the option of getting a sneaker or a cleat or a trainer that helps prepare them for what they're doing in their athletic careers and whatnot. And so, these are sacred assets. I think they're the most important cultural institutions that a city has. And while we want to build a big business, we want to drive tax revenue, we want to employ lots of people, we want to win a lot of games, we also want to do right by our neighbors and our region, our city. We've got a great partnership with the city of Washington, D.C., with Mayor Bowser. And it's a very unique position to be in. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, you talk about sports being like a religion, and we know many fans might think about their own teams in that context, and certainly fan loyalty can be very tied up in the relationship that they have with the city. And so how do you look at that as Washington, D.C., and the support of the teams that you have in building out that fan loyalty?
Well, I think that when most people think about any major city across the United States, you think about some of the iconic institutions, you think of the architecture that's unique to a city. When you think of New York, you think of the Empire State Building, for example. When you think of Washington, D.C., you think of the U.S. Capitol. Then you might think of the universities that are there, the big industry that takes place. You think about Wall Street in New York. You think about the U.S. federal government here in D.C. And then you think about those sports teams. And, I get back to people wanting shared collective experiences. People also want things to rally around in a unifying way. And so I think back to when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup in 2018, we held a parade on the National Mall. We had 700,000 people decked out in red. It didn't matter if you were a Republican or a Democrat. It didn't matter where you were on that. Everyone was unified in saying we have the best hockey team in the world. It makes grown people cry. And so that is really special. And so it's really hard to do. That's what makes it so special. There are 29 or 31 other teams or clubs that you're competing against with great resources. You need everything to go right. And it's powered by a fan base, how they support the team, how they vote with their wallets, how they buy tickets, how they tune in for games. All that makes a difference. And so, yeah, we're in the middle of a rebuild right now for the Wizards. We're being patient, not taking any shortcuts. We've got a nucleus of really exciting young talent. We're going to add a top pick in this year's draft, we hope. We're going to have Trae Young joining the team next year. The hope meter is high. We don't want to just be trying to eke our way into the playoffs. We want to get back to a championship. That's how I think we will be measured. The same way we can measure ourselves in terms of, company valuation, revenue, and whatnot. We also want to make sure we're sort of uplifting our community too.
Great. And on that note, I know Monumental Sports is involved in more than just team ownership. You're involved in the arenas and other physical aspects related to the sports, and these really can be part of economic regeneration of cities. And what do you see as your plans ahead?
Yeah, we're a unique entity in sports. A lot of organizations in sports are a single team or a single team in a single building. We have multiple teams across NHL, NBA, WNBA, G League, esports, some other minor league properties, multiple venues. We have 2 practice facilities, a 10,000-person arena on the campus of George Mason University. We opened an esports venue a couple of years ago. We own our own network and Monumental Sports Network. We treat that like a community asset. We stream and air hundreds of high school and collegiate games across our region and whatnot. We've got a variety of other investments in streaming and sports betting and a variety of other things. But Capital One Arena is truly a crown jewel of an asset. We have an incredible location in downtown Washington, D.C. And when you think about the world's most powerful city, which is here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, it makes sense that D.C. should have a thriving and wonderful downtown corridor. And prior to Capital One Arena being there, you wouldn't step foot in downtown Washington, D.C. For a variety of reasons. And I think that Capital One Arena was a catalyst in terms of driving up to 3 million people annually through our turnstiles to come to downtown, to hang out before and after games, to eat in restaurants, to shop in retail, to generate a lot of tax revenue for the city. And so the building is 29 years old now. And, we've struck an amazing partnership with Mayor Bowser and the city of Washington to really take a look at what the next 30 years can look like. And it involves major change. People want to be around buildings and architecture that feels iconic, that is energetic, that feels safe, that feels like a big deal. And that's what we are trying to build. It's going to end up being $1 billion project, a little over $500 million from the city of Washington, D.C., and likely up to $500 million from us. So it really is truly like a 50-50 partnership. And so it's going to impact every single component of the fan experience, from our most premium areas all the way to the 400 level, improving food quality and expanding our footprint. We're going to be expanding from 900,000 square feet to 1.6 million square feet, taking over a lot of vacant mall space, and making the arena feel bigger, capturing more of that game day experience, giving more people reason to come down before and after games. And all of that, I think, drives a lot of activity for downtown and is in support of a lot of the mayor's initiatives. We've been really, I think, great in terms of working together in a coordinated fashion in terms of all the work that they're doing with the downtown bid, a desire to convert office into residential, to bring retail back, to work with other partners to find space in our building and whatnot. We'd love to find life for our building outside of live games, not just between the hours of 6 p.m. and say 11 p.m. We've got millions of square feet. We should be using it during the day, and I think we're finding some creative ways to do that too. So it's been a really exciting experience so far.
Talk a little bit about that. Talk about, you mentioned esports, for example, which doesn't have to be limited to a certain time period, particularly since it's so popular around the world. We hear about what China's doing, what Saudi Arabia is doing. We were talking in the green room a little bit about the international aspects of your business too. What you see as some of the big opportunities, say, to fill that kind of space?
Well, very astute observation in that esports is global in nature, and so the East Coast actually has a preferential time zone where people are still up in other parts of the world when you're streaming and whatnot. So we've hosted a variety of esports events. You know, we would love to host a League of Legends World Championship at some point in the future. We've hosted NBA 2K League events, CSGO events, Blast Pro Series, and I foresee, even though esports has had, frankly, its own ups and downs, I don't think esports is going away. The demo, the viewership is still through the roof. And now we're seeing like a second generation of esports fans come along. Their parents grew up esports fan, and now they're bringing their children. The same way we see in traditional sports, which is kind of crazy, but also very fun. We've had great activations with partners like, I think about KPMG or Meta, where we have revamped their suite experience, where they obviously can use it for any event at Capital One Arena, but they open up those suites during the days and they do client development. They use it as innovation labs. They use it to show off new products and services. And then after the meeting with a key client or whatnot, they go right into the game. KPMG, I think, did over 150 client meetings in their suite this year. So I mean, it was a huge driver for them and a brand new way for us to use space that would otherwise be vacant, not during the live game. So it's pretty amazing.
Links back to the point that you were making about the coming together and the community of sports. So our next panel is a series of mayors, and given your experience in regeneration of downtown areas, what piece of advice would you give to the mayors about the best way to attract sports?
Well, I don't have to give advice to Mayor Bowser because
She fought hard for that.
She fought really hard, and you know, we love each other. But I think
Maybe,
that,
yeah.
I think there are
But building those good relations.
I
clearly.
think there are, you know, you see all over the country fights over public funding for arenas and whatnot, and I know that it can be a controversial topic. You have one side of professors that want to publish reports and whatnot. They're often funded by organizations that are competing for those dollars. You know, there's no free lunch. They're not doing it because they're inquisitive academically on it. There is a motivation there. I think that the impact that we have on downtown Washington, D.C. is self-evident. And I think that it can be measured in economic sort of activity and tax dollars driven that maybe wouldn't be there. But I also don't think it should only be measured by that. I think it should be measured by kind of how we started this session. There is a civic pride that comes with this that you just can't get anywhere else. And so I think every region is unique and has its own sort of bespoke issues, and some partnerships get it wrong and some partnerships get it right. And I really think and hope that we get it right. And our intents are genuine. I think we're putting our money where our mouth is. Like I said, we are very active in our community, donating a lot of money. We also take the time and energy really seriously. We're leveraging our infrastructure for good. We love Washington, D.C. I think about part of our role being, you know, we should be D.C.'s #1 cheerleader. And so we take that responsibility seriously. Perhaps there are other organizations that feel the same, perhaps there aren't. I can only speak for ours, and I think we've got a pretty good thing going for DC and Monumental.
Well, I think that's a happy note to end on. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights.